This is the Dometic CF11. I think it's actually a 10.5 litre fridge. Sold in Australia, probably elsewhere. It's essentially Waco. And after about 4 years, the thermistor or temperature sensor fails in them. And then the fridge, you'll turn it on, won't know what temperature it is. You might turn it on, it thinks it's negative 15 degrees at room temperature. And then to get it to cool, you'll have to set it to something like negative 18, and then it still won't cool very much. It'll cool to 3 degrees below room temperature. And replacing this thermistor is a hassle because it's buried in a bunch of expansion foam, whatever, on the other side of this metal enclosure in here, and it's heat sunk to it. There's another fella on YouTube who's drilled a hole somewhere in here or through here. It's a different model though, it's an actual Waco. And then you can sort of just sit the temperature sensor here and glue the wire along, feed it through a drill hole, and then plug it in here without worrying about digging out all that foam. There is a little plug buried in here. My plan though is there was an LED to light the thing up. So there was a little plug over here. This was powering an LED and it was on all the time, a white LED, all the time that this was powered. So I'd cut it anyway, even though it's drawing next to nothing. So this was translucent. And this has a bit of tube around it. So since I don't need the power for the LED anymore, I'm planning to cut it way back here and then pull the power cable through, throw it away, use the remaining tube to feed the temperature sensor from here, or feed first a thin wire through, and then once I've fed some thin wire out the other end, use that thin wire to drag the temperature sensor through the tube, if it'll fit. Otherwise this video won't be published. Yeah, don't know if that'll take some coercion or if I'll actually have to glue one side of this. But then I'll be able to do essentially what the other fella on YouTube did. At the start of this video, you probably saw this thing back together. So yeah, the Waco one actually had the temperature sensor plugged into a board under here, so that this one doesn't. It's plugged into a controller inside. So I opened this and pulled it out for nothing. So if you've got the CF11, I've saved you some time there. So I'm not going to show you the process. I've explained what I'm doing. It's a fairly simple thing. I'll show you again though where that power wire for the LED comes out. There was probably a current limiting resistor mounted on this end where the LED was. When I chopped it, it was a while ago, I insulated these leads from each other, heat shrunk it and pushed it all back in, and then popped the plug back in. But it was sitting there so I could get it back out. So I'm going to cut that wire at the other end and see if I can feed something through it. So I cut that LED wire, behind inside the fridge basically, so I was able to unplug it from the controller end. So now there's only a bit of this tube going from inside the fridge to out to inside the compartment. But so this tube is undamaged, it's nice and has been strained. This won't even fit here, let alone be fed through it. Even if you could squeeze it in there, friction would stop anything pulling it through. So no choice but to dig out some insulation foam. This, I'm going to have to basically chip away at that foam there until I can turn that corner, because the tube might as well not be there. I'm going to pull it out. So I've got to turn a corner and get it out inside there. I did test that it was continuous with a multimeter over there. So it is the same wire. And I won't have to do any insulation in here because I've just unplugged it. I've pulled apart a wire coat hanger that might be able to feed something through and turn that corner. There's a little plug. Yeah, just using a butter knife. How far I've got to dig into here before I turn a corner is the question. The stuff's adhesive, so even the tube doesn't want to just pull out yet, even though I've pulled quite a bit of the stuff out. Eventually I imagine this will pull through. But no, it's stuck, and I'm pretty sure it's just by the foam itself adhering to it. Still popping out this end. And at this point, I've pulled the plastic tubing through here. When a fair bit is dug out, you can see it down there still. Maybe I hurt it with a knife, but it ended up breaking and I hit myself in the face without pulling it through. So I'm probably gonna give up on turning that corner and using the original hole in here. There it is. And just go for one next to it, like here, because the cable will have to turn less corners anyway. Here it might get in the way and be more vulnerable. So I'm gonna drill a hole here and then lead it out and heat sink it somewhere to the side. As you can see, it hasn't been a real messy job at all. Just shit everywhere. I'll have to vacuum inside this thing too, because there's a fan blowing all this crap around into these vents if I leave it there. There's a hole I made right in the corner, right there. Too easy. The coat hanger fed straight through, comes out. So I probably didn't have to make such a mess. Maybe this would have come out in bigger pieces. I mean, I guess it had to, I don't know. Well, maybe it could have been a narrower hole. But I mean, in terms of insulation, I'm not losing much there. Now originally, I was going to stick some thin wire through the hole there. And then drag the temperature probe through from the other side of the hole. But I've decided to go a little bit bigger, push the actual plug through this hole and then push the plug through with wire when it's big enough, which I'm not sure if it is yet. So be careful of this bit to not damage the actual flex. Yeah, see, I dug around enough to be sure it was relatively unobstructed to begin with. I'm pretty sure I can, yeah, it is feeding through. I'll probably already be able to grab that from the other end. There it is. Got it through. Can't say it wasn't a pain, not damaged, but yeah. Now, given it's called heat sink plaster, I assume it's something that will eventually set, and I'm holding it up against there with tape. And then I'll fill that hole with some kind of adhesive, and there's a little bit more of putting things back together. So there was no need to ever remove this and pull this apart. I've yet to fix this properly. I have also marked when this was repaired, and there's a strap wrapped around the chassis inside of this, and if this was wire cable crimped with a ferrule, it'd make it easy, or hard, sorry, to rip out of the vehicle. Even this one, this is actually to help hold it in place against an inbuilt bed frame in my bed. In my vehicle has an inbuilt aluminium bed frame. So it's really to keep it up against that, as well as being belted down. But yeah, just that was an idea. If this had been a wire cable attached to something like where the seat belts attach, it'd be pretty hard for someone to casually take it out of the vehicle.